G'day, Stu from UAV Futures here, and today, well, this is the second part 2 review of the GBX 210, or what I like to call the Firehawk. So in part 1, I'll leave a little link somewhere up here. In part 1, we really had a look at the kit. We broke everything down and sort of looked at all the components and put the frame together. In part 2, what we're going to be doing, I'm going to be putting it on the bench and sort of having a look at how the actual finalized build went. And also, we're going to be taking it out and most importantly giving this thing a thrash around the racecourse, because this thing is absolutely killing it and I'm loving flying it, and I know you guys are going to love to see that flight footage as well. So without more rambling, let's stick it on the bench, have a look at how the build went together, and then cut down to the field. Alright, so here it is on the bench, and I've got to say this thing really was a tricky build to actually put together. But in saying that, look how good this thing looks. I mean, I'm going to flash some photos up here, but I love this thing's style and I love the colors as well. Usually most of my builds are like a black or sort of have some sort of theme, but this thing, this quad looks awesome. It looks really far out with its purple motors, yellow props, green battery straps, and also gold screws. So I love how that went together. And check this out. This is something that I didn't show people in part 1, pretty much because I didn't know that it did this. But hopefully you guys can see this. There's a little button on the back here, and if you want to just change the color of your LEDs, all you got to do is press that. How cool is that? So I'm a massive fan of, you can set them to do different things if you just cycle through them as well. So I'm a really massive fan of, that's awesome. So if you're going to get together with your mates and you're like, okay, who's going to be red or something like that, you can set that up and it's super easy to match your build. And I didn't have to do any programming or anything like that in the OSD when I plugged it into the flight controller to get that LED to do that. Now, a couple of changes in the build, some things that I did switch out. I did switch out the camera in the front. So originally it had like a Foxeer, I think it was a 1000 or 1200 TVL, a little FPV camera. I put in a Runcam Owl because I felt like there was a little bit of latency when I was flying it around, and this is a much better camera anyway. The only other thing that I changed, and I spoke about this a little bit, was the PDB. So I had a PDB in here that was, I guess the one that came with the kit was very, very basic, and then so I simply put this one on here. This is the little hub OSD, and I'll leave a link up here in the description to that first part of that review. But this thing is awesome. So they're the only two components that I changed. Everything else, oh, and the props. I did change the props. I changed these over to some Dal Cyclone props. But other than that, this thing is ready to rock and roll. Now, in terms of the build, it was fairly complex. Now, you don't really have too much room in here at all. You can see everything stacked in. I am using a little, what's that? I don't know the name of that receiver actually, the whatever comes with the Turnigy Evolution. But so things were a little bit difficult to cram it all in here, and especially because you have to build it in two halves. So you have like your back half where your motors are, and you're sort of putting your FPV camera and those sorts of parts in, and then you've got your front half with your front ESCs, and you're sort of trying to all slide it all together and sort of fit it in top. So it was very, very fiddly for a lot of the time. I found myself with the back half hanging out, and definitely not recommended for a first time builder though, because you don't really get too much room in there at all. And I've built a ton of quads, and even I found this fiddly is probably the right word. It was very, very fiddly when building this. Now, a lot of people are going to say, Stuart, you can put these motors on the underside, but the reason I didn't want to do that is because I wanted to try what it was like having your motors up high, really out of the way, so when your quad was cutting through the air, that these ones had some fresh air right here, and these ones weren't getting any turbulence from these ones. And if I hung them up if I hung them on the underside and these back two were pusher props, they really worked out to be the same level anyway, so I don't think that was going to handle any differently. And by putting them up on the top here, I have found it was a massive difference when I was actually flying around. So that's why I've gone like that. Most people I've seen do build them as pushers underneath, but I love them being on the top like this. If you haven't tried a quad like this with this sort of frame, definitely check this out, because it handles like nothing else that I've flown. I've just frozen the video here because this was sort of something that came up after I'd already filmed this video, but TBS got in touch with me, and it was really disappointing. Like, I really like all the components in this kit, but it was really, really disappointing to find out that the Triumph antenna in this one is actually just a knockoff. So that's a massive letdown, I think, and that's something that I think is a bit of a shame, really, because the rest of the kit I really enjoy. But yeah, I was really disappointed to find out that this was a TBS knockoff Triumph antenna, so that part was a little bit disappointing. Especially when it's marketed as a TBS antenna, or at least it looks identical. It's pretty disgusting actually how it's like an exact clone on the antenna's behalf. Now, in saying that, let's go down to the field because this thing, like I said before, I was amazed at how good this thing flew. Actually, look, I knew it had some fantastic components, but I spent so long flying this thing the other day, like 30 batteries, 37 lipos in a row. So yeah, I'm absolutely in love with this quad. So let's cut down to the field in 3, 2, 1. All right, so we're down here, down to the field, got this little track set up. I got the GoPro on top of the Hawk, so this is going to be its maiden flight. So let's test out these fire motors. Alrighty, so here we are, just about to take off, and this is on a 4S pack, so I thought I'd just take it easy, just sort of the first lap, because you're never 100% sure what a quad's going to feel like, and I guess it takes me a little bit of while to sort of build up a little bit of confidence. But straight away I started to notice, and this is something we'll talk about a few times, straight away I started to notice just how it was in the turns, and it's really apparent in this turn coming up right here. So I don't know if you look at that, but most of my other flights I have, or most of my other quads, when I go around a corner, and we should really pay attention to this sort of in those hairpin, those 90-degree turns, but and it's pretty quick as well. But there's like no oscillations. It just turns straight away, turns around, changes direction, and keeps going. Like there is no vibration, no real prop wash or anything like that at all. So that's probably one thing that this quad is fantastic about. It just, in those turns, it is so like locked in, like it's just on such a track that it turns beautifully. You don't get any oscillations. It doesn't feel like it's struggling to change direction or anything like that. And I really think that comes down to because of those motors are at different heights, and you've got so much more fresh air, nice clean air to cut into. Now, it is very, very fast, but also very efficient as well. So that was one thing that these motors sort of recommended on the little packets. And I think I was only getting like maybe, I think it was between like 25 amps or something like that. So I really wasn't pulling too many amps, and I found it to be quite pleasant on the batteries. Now I have a pretty bit of a lucky crash right here. There goes Trevor. I was trying to sort of sneak past him. That's like the biggest crash I think I've ever had, and be able to keep up and get going like nothing's happened. So yeah, that was a pretty cool nice little surprise. But overall, like I flew this quad, just a little tip as well. I flew this thing for another like 30 packs after this one. I had an absolute blast with it. And look, it's not quite as fast as the GT2, and that is a real top tier quad of mine as well. But this thing, it just felt so good in the air. This one was one of the best, like it was really, really good to fly this thing around. This part here, this is just like a little bonus clip, but what I really want to point out is that when I come back around at the start of that lap right there, I do a little sort of reverse turn or a 180 turn, and it feels great, and that'll really show people, like, because of those different height of the props, there's like no oscillations, where most of my other quads would be stuttering or something like that. This one just handles it like the boss right here. So you can hear there, no oscillations. I do have a little crash right here, so obviously a bit tumbly there. But other than that, yeah, it's a pretty awesome quad for doing some acro as well. So there it is, there's my part 2 review of the Firehawk, or the GBX 210, whatever you guys want to call that. So hopefully you enjoyed that. But yeah, I was totally blown away with just how good this kit was. Like, I've built a heap of kits in the past, and a little bit of a backstory of how much I enjoyed this. By the end of the day when I went down there, I took about 40 lipos, 37 of them I put through this thing. That's how much fun I was having with this. Yep, and a lot of people are going to say, Stuart, how does it compare to the Helix and the GT2? Because they're some of the most top tier quads that I have at the moment, and I've got to say, it's right up there. It may not be as fast as those other ones, but whatever this frame is doing in the turns feels unbeatable. So I felt, and look, maybe my skills have gotten better or something's happening, but I felt so in control when I was flying this around, and the way it was turning, it was an absolute pleasure. So if you're after a kit that you want to build yourself and you want something that is a really, really awesome quad, definitely check this out. There'll be a link down below. Subscribe for more FPV related content, and as always, happy flying! Alrighty, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Definitely subscribe if you're new to the channel and check out these videos. And I'm also going to leave a little link here to my Patreon page because I've got some fantastic Patreon supporters and I like to give back to them as well. So if you want to join the UAV Futures family, there's things like bonus Velcro straps, little bundles of FPV goodies and things like that that also get sent out. Anyway, happy flying.